Because people have, say, had a belief, had an issue, had trauma for 30 years, they often think it will take that long to remove it. But with these tools, I swear to you, you can remove the issues in seconds. Self-belief for me is like a superpower. It really helps people drive to what they want to achieve. So many people are trying to be somebody else. They're trying to look like somebody else, dress like somebody else. And most people are doing it because they think that will make them happy.
Hello and welcome to the T2 Fit Talks podcast, where we aim to educate and inspire individuals to achieve their full potential. I'm your host JT, and today in episode 8, we are looking at 5 ways that you can become unstoppable. And to do that, I'm joined by an entrepreneur, global business owner and performance coach who is using her master's in neurolinguistic programming to level up the sporting industry, working with coaches, players and teams, helping them remove limitations to become the best versions of themselves. So please welcome Tisk. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And yourself?
I'm very good. Hungry, as we just established after our very small brunch.
We love a brunch.
So was yours actually oats? I kind of misheard. Was it oats?
Yep, oats.
Overnight?
Oats. Yep, always overnight. Yours?
This is a new thing for me.
Ah, okay.
But it's been an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
Absolute game changer. I'm a big fan.
What were you doing before?
Just really not eating, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. But the overnight oat thing has been an absolute game changer. But it has to have just that little bit of Nutella. But I do like to alternate between Nutella and Biscoff.
Oh, Biscoff. That's
Although
the biggest seller for me.
I've been told that maybe I should try both together.
Oh, not sure about that.
No?
I like to keep them separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you know. Let you know.
Keep me updated.
We're off topic already anyway. So first things first, obviously welcome.
Thank you.
Give us a bit of background on you and kind of how you got to basically where you are today.
Cool. So after school, went to uni and studied business management, and I've always had a huge passion for business. I've been brought up in a home where my parents always had businesses of their own, so it was kind of innate in both myself and my brothers to do something of our own. And we've always been brought up to follow our dreams. So always had that belief system that you can do anything that you set your mind to, and that's big credit to my mum because she instilled that in us from very young. And so after uni, during uni, I very much was working. I've always been a self-learner. So you give me a book, I'll read it and I'll memorize it, and was never really one for a classroom environment, just thought always I can do it faster. So when I finished uni, I was working the whole duration throughout, and I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to get into, but started in T&T, which is Tisk Tjarks, our family design agency, which my brothers and I are now running, and we're the second generation owners. So it's been super fun, the journey so far. I mean, we're only young, but, when it's a business of your own, you really delve into all the different parts and you get such a good understanding of how that machine works. And you go from finance to operations to, running client service, and you really get a good 360 approach. And was something that I never saw myself doing because, again, we've been brought up to follow our dreams, and mine has always been in the health arena, and also helping people get the best out themselves. And kind of 2 years into being at T&T after uni, I decided to go on an NLP course, which is neurolinguistic programming. And it's, in essence, gives you a whole load of tools to remove any roadblocks, remove fears, anxieties, and basically get the best out of anybody, because we all have the resources within ourselves to do whatever it is that we want to, but a lot of people don't know how. So went on this NLP course and just felt at home. When you just get that feeling that this is me, this is my dharma. And, in Buddhism, they talk about your dharma, your purpose. And I do believe that everyone's been put on this earth for a specific purpose. And that was just me finding mine. So fascinating, saw, so many examples live of people like holding things in them for 70 years or 50 years, things from childhood, from when they were bullied or when their parent once told them they couldn't do something. And to see how people carry that through life and how you can actually change that in a split second was just insane for me. So from there, I then did the master's course as well, and spent a whole load of time basically just studying in that industry and working with different individuals. And now it's something where I'm working with a whole array, coaches, teams, athletes, and just working with them to get the best out of themselves. And, you know, as individuals, everyone has different dreams, different things that maybe are holding them back, different things that have left trauma with them or imprints. And it's such a fun journey because every day, every single person is completely different. So it's, you know, learning for me as well. We're on a journey of, you know, finding new situations that always also teach me to keep learning myself and keep growing, because there are some things which I've not dealt with before with individuals. And it's, you know, like with anything, finding the right way and maybe trial and erroring a few things to get us there. So yeah, right now, working with athletes and a whole team of individuals, helping people upscale their health as well, and running T&T with my brothers. So that's a challenge in itself, but good old fun. I love
busy.
A challenge.
I can imagine pretty busy.
Very busy. But I like busy.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And I guess you, as you said, you found something where you felt at home.
Exactly.
So actually kind of dedicating the time and the effort to it is actually kind of fun and enjoyable for you, right?
Exactly.
One of the things I'm quite interested there, you mentioned that obviously there's a number of different people that you work with and you speak to, and different reasons maybe for them coming to you. You know, we're talking about, you know, let's say you may be talking to me one day, but then a high level athlete the next day. Do you still find there are real strong similarities when you kind of really bring it down to the base of it and the foundations of those conversations that you're having? They kind of all stem back to one place or a number of similar places. Do you find that?
I do. I think self-belief is a huge one. So, you know, that little voice in our minds that chatters, you know, there's a book by Dr. Stephen Peters and he refers to it as the chimp. And it's that irrational part of the mind that chatters and chatters away. And unless you are the absolute master of your mind, and there's, you know, only a few out there, it is something where the doubts always come in, no matter who you are. And it's finding the best solutions for those doubts. And again, the solutions look different for everybody because we all gel with different things. But I find that when the doubts set in, people start to procrastinate. They're not sure in what direction to pursue. They don't know. Everything becomes a little bit unclear, right? So it's finding the best solutions to getting them out of that state of procrastination or doubt and getting them really on their road, you know, just to continue their path. So removing those doubting roadblocks, if you like. And I would say every single individual that I work with encounters them in some areas. I would also say that it comes down to being really honest with yourself. So I think there are a lot of people out there that might tell themselves that there's a specific reason for why they're not doing something, but actually it's about getting honest with yourself, because if you're not honest with yourself, we can't deal with what's in the way or what the issues are. So it's actually about having those conversations with you, and I basically help them have those discussions with themselves. Like, okay, is that really the issue there, or is that really what's holding you back? Because often there's something deeper.
I think that's the big thing that I think I want to get onto, is definitely that there's always something deeper.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, you might get every now and then, it might be a lucky thing where someone reads something or sees something online and it's that little like just kick they need and they can change their mentality. But for someone who maybe has really struggled with self-belief for, you know, their whole life, potentially, it is likely going to be a more deep rooted reason, I guess, until you really start delving into that and get to the crux of, you know, why you're feeling that way. I guess there's, if there's going to be progression, it's quite minimal, right? So you have to be honest and kind of coax those real, probably quite tough answers and questions and answers out from the deep, dark depths, right?
Yeah, and often what's so amazing is how the mind will capture a split second in time, and you and yourself can create a belief about that moment in time. So for example, say you put teenagers in a school situation and one says to another, "You're not very good at that." That can stay with someone forever. And what happens is that in that split second, someone will adopt that belief and tell themselves, "I'm no good at that." And they will then believe that and keep that forever. And even though we talk of these deeper issues, a lot of them are actually, if you look at them rationally, very small, simple things. But because of that second in time where the mind has created this imprint, unless you go back and actually change the memory at the time that you adopted that belief, really nothing's going to happen until you address what we then say is deeper. So you can do that by, an amazing array of tools, but a simple way just for somebody looking to do it themselves is actually watching a movie of that moment where you've adopted a belief or where your self-belief has really been put down, and rewinding the movie, so start to view it backwards, change it to black and white, push it out. So it may often sit very close. If you really push it out into your vision, you start detaching from it automatically, which is incredible in itself.
And is that a tool that someone maybe would need to kind of revisit like over and over again, or is that just like in one go, boom, done? That's
the amazing thing with NLP and so much of these, psychological tools, is that because people have, say, had a belief, had an issue, had trauma for 30 years, they often think it will take that long to remove it. But with these tools, I swear to you, you can remove the issues in seconds. But what you have to make sure is that you get to the crux. Yep. And if you've got to the crux, your life will change forever.
And how important, obviously that's very much a personal thing and something obviously that you need to do, but how important is it to have that kind of support network potentially around you, or people that are, going to kind of help you with that and boost you up, let's say, for example? Or what about someone who lives with someone who actually they're trying to really fight off all these demons in their past, but they have someone around them, close to them, a partner, a family member, or whoever, who is actually that negative person in their ear who maybe has fed that in the first place? Like, how do you go about that?
So I think that comes with understanding and also letting people be them and becoming cool with that, right? So there's always going to be low energy people around. There's always going to be people that feed you with negative words, negative language, or harmful language. They exist on our earth. That's us just being, real. But if they are the ones affecting you, it's really about, firstly, awareness. Awareness is always the number one, understanding that, okay, that's actually the reason that, this is causing me to think a certain way. But then also becoming cool with the fact that, that is how they are. I can't control them. So it's all about you. You need to then find a better way for yourself to detach from that, to find a, better solution for your environment, because those people, no matter what you do, are going to be around. So you have to find the way for you to put yourself in a better place. Because I think it just comes down to anything in life, we can only control ourselves, right? So often you hear people say, "Oh, well, they made me feel that way. They made me think that." People can't actually make you feel a certain way. You make yourself feel that way. People can be horrible, but you don't have to take it horribly. You can actually laugh and go, "Ha, wonderful, thank you," and move on. So it's actually untrue that people put their things on us. It's actually that we choose to take it on.
And that's a big thing. Actually, recently you came and obviously you did some work here with us as a team, and you were talking about exactly that. Just you have the ability to deal with a situation or a scenario and choose how you're going to react, right? Which
Yeah.
actually I think is so powerful, because often we just go to our default barrier
We
or
do,
whatever it is,
yeah.
and I get that. But understanding that you do have a choice and how you react to that, I think is a huge takeaway. So actually self-belief was number one on our list of our kind of 5 things to be unstoppable. So number 2 actually is kind of what you touched on there, and it's being authentic, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean,
go on.
it's just touching back on self-belief. So self-belief for me is like a superpower, okay? It really helps people drive to what they want to achieve. And if you imagine a walled city, okay, so people living in there will be many, it's just an analogy, but there'll be many people living in a walled city, and they, for their whole life, will think there is nothing other than that existence, okay? And then you have others where they know that there's a gate where you can come out of this city, and you can see sunrises and sunsets, and there's opportunity. And those people are the people that have the self-belief, because they know there is more. And self-belief actually starts with first having a vision and knowing that there is somewhere that you'd like to get to. And then where most people fall down is when it gets to the ifs, and if they could do it, if only they could get there, right? And whereas the people who really have true self-belief, and this is something I found in my journey, is that rather when obstacles come along, or something throws the spanner out the works, you rather actually say, what do I need to do? So the what do I need to do, and if only I could do it, really separates people apart. And you will always have people that think life can only be a certain way, and there'll be people that know that there is more, and that's what separates us in society. But it's actually letting everyone know that there is more, and anyone can do it. And no matter what belief system you have in you, because we all have one, and we all have empowering beliefs and limiting beliefs. And our limiting beliefs are like roadblocks in a lane that just are there and we can't get past unless we remove them. And you'll hear them all the time when people are talking, I couldn't do that, I could never do that. And actually, anyone can do anything. I truly believe that. Anyone has the resources within themselves to do whatever it is they want to. And it's just getting people to believe that. And the more that you can start to build that up in yourself, the more you can just go out there and get it. And that journey in itself is, it's not the easiest, because the amount of beliefs that people alone adopt as a child from their parent, drilling into them, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be a doctor, you could never earn money outside of an office. So many limiting beliefs out there. And, the world is everybody's oyster. And even just opening up people's minds to the fact that you could do it differently, really gets people thinking. So it's just a reminder for everyone that I believe in them and I know they can, so they should too.
Love that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You mentioned there, like, you need to be this, you need to be that. And I guess when it comes to being authentic, a lot of it is about just trusting and relying and being happy with your values and what you are and what you stand for in your journey and kind of where you want to go with things, right?
Yeah.
There is always a lot of real outside noise. And that noise is, you must do this, you must be better. And I guess if they have a limiting belief and there is more out there, then we need to let them know that, and we need to help them on that journey for sure. But I guess if someone's values are, actually, I'm really happy at this level, that's also really okay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about you as an individual. So if you are cool with where you're at, then you're in the perfect place for you. It's not saying that anyone needs to do something that someone's telling them to do. It is finding that optimum for you, whatever that may be, and it looks completely different for every individual.
Agreed. And then, so that's number 2, was kind of, and we'll probably come back to that a little bit as well, but number 3, and this one I wanted to really delve into, is health.
Health.
And health obviously has a very broad spectrum behind it. So can I take us through some of your main kind of markers for health?
So first thing with health for me is that one of my favourite quotes by Gandhi is, health is wealth rather than gold or silver. And like health is just golden to me, because without health, what is there, right? You see so many people slaving away working for their whole life, and then they become really ill, and it's like, what was that for? Without health, what is there? And for me, it's really a 360 approach, right? So there is so many parts to health, and I know it can seem a little bit overwhelming to some, but when you start to hone in on different pieces and really start to bring them into your life, I think you only start to build on that. So for me, movement is huge, and I know you guys are big advocates of that, but movement's huge. When it comes to that, I would say it's about finding something that works for you and something that you love, right? Because if you don't have an enjoyment for it, there's going to be less of a motivation there. So movement, we were made to move, okay? We've got limbs, so get out there. Then it comes down to nutrition. So again, it's, everybody's individual choice. But for me, I just think so much of what is out there these days, especially in our supermarkets, is just full of chemicals and additives and things that the human body was not actually created to be able to digest and function on. So I would personally say sticking to the goods of the earth, if you like. So if you think back to when mankind started, they would have had, plants, fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, if you like, meat and fish, which again is, people's prerogatives to make their choices. But I would say sticking to those kind of good earth foods, if you like, are really what give you energy. Because a lot of people speak about food giving you energy, and it does, but only if it's the right stuff. I always say to people, how do you feel after a Christmas dinner? Is that energy to you? Do you feel good?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not, no.
It's like slug 101, hey?
Yep.
And that's the prime example of overeating or eating loads of processed stuff actually has the adverse effect. So, I'm big for finding balance and enjoying life, but I do think that to achieve optimal health, it's really sticking to those raw goods, if you like, from the earth has provided for us. And then hydration comes into that as well. I think, water is just energy, and I know most people know to drink a load of water every day, but it is huge, and even adding electrolytes into it can just increase the hydration levels in your body hugely. So that's something which is just a little tip that has really changed my life as well. And then moving on to additional things like breath work and meditation, which, it's just finding that moment of calm. We live in such a busy world, such a busy society, and it's more important than ever, even if it's a few minutes a day, to just re-ground yourself with really who you are and your being. And, a lot of people speak of anxiety, and breath work is one of genuinely the most amazing ways to calm yourself, because you cannot be focusing on your breath and anxious at the same time. So they are, breath work's an antidote for that. And that's not to say that it's going to fix everybody's issues, but it's an amazing, amazing management tool.
I was going to say, actually, and I love the fact that your last word there was a tool, because I love the fact that it's a 360 approach, and it's definitely something that I've been more aware of over the last couple of years. I think what's quite often drummed into us is that when we look for optimal health, it's, I've got to be up at 4:30. I've got to, have a shake with 27 different ingredients whilst I sit in an ice bath for 5 minutes, do this reading, do a meditation, and then whatever. I've got a hot yoga class at 7.
It's a lot.
But it hasn't got to be that. It hasn't got to be that extreme, like all of this stuff. And you said moderation. It's just understanding that, again, health will look different for different people.
It will.
It hasn't got to be what you're seeing someone do on Instagram. But the important thing there for me is, and it's definitely something you mentioned to me before, start with just very small steps.
I was just going to say.
Implement them, and you're looking to create just good, long-lasting habits, right?
Exactly. And I was going to lead on to that anyway. So it's, what I would say is, if you're completely new on this journey, start with one thing at a time, you know? It's not about, as you say, putting everything into the shopping basket, because when people do, that's when they fail, because it's overwhelming, it's too much. So starting with one thing, finding the right routine for you with that one thing. It may be, so say it's nutrition, maybe even just adjusting one meal a day first, or with movement, trying a new form of activity first. And really then finding what works for you, then making it a habit. And once you feel like that's actually been a lifestyle change for you, then you can look at the next thing. Because, and again, it will look completely different for everybody. And you've got to do it your way, because otherwise it's not sustainable. And, you know, you referenced cold therapy there. That's also something I'm huge for, because of the benefits it brings. I mean, there's so much more scientific research coming out now, especially, you know, after Wim Hof and his popularity. But again, when it comes to mental health, the dopamine that your body naturally produces from being in the cold is, the benefits are insane. You've seen so many people come off their antidepressants. And again, very unique, may work for some and not for others. But it's harnessing the things that work for you. You know, my mum, for example, really doesn't like the cold. So that's not a tool for her. But it's actually something I'm writing a book on at the moment. It's finding what tools you want in your toolbox. And that's the analogy of a toolbox. But in times of difficulty, in times where you want to make a change, what tools do you need in there? Because there'd be a whole variety. There wouldn't just be one. And that's also to say that sometimes you might harness one and the others might go to the side. You don't need them right now.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. And you mentioned earlier with the movement stuff, and your mum hates cold therapy, and I completely agree. There needs to be a level of, I guess, enjoyment to some things.
Yeah.
When does it get to that point where you have to push yourself into the territory where you maybe don't enjoy something, but I guess the mindset shift is so important that you almost go like, okay, I'm going to push through this. I'm going to build some resilience. Let's say cold therapy was something on your list.
Yeah.
And it felt like it was an important thing for you. Or even just movement, take it back to something easier.
Yeah.
Getting out for a walk felt like a really huge hurdle. I don't enjoy it, but I know it's going to be beneficial. At what point do we need to make that kind of real shift in mentality and go, I don't enjoy it, but I'm going to get it done anyway?
Yeah, so I would say that's hugely important as well, right? So I think if you have seen specific benefits to you from certain tools, then you really need to be honest with yourself and harness those. And that's where it then comes down to, okay, why don't I want to go? Because the benefit that comes out of it is so huge. So why wouldn't I want to do this? And actually, on a fundamental level, there may be other things going on there, but I am very much for no excuses. So I would say that if there are things out there that are really benefiting you and you're not hugely enjoying them, then you've got to go and do them. But if you can find enjoyment in certain things, then I would harness those rather than other options, I would say.
I guess you could also tie it back into the whole self-belief thing, where maybe you don't feel like you could go and do those things. And then again, it's just having that inner chat with yourself and changing that mentality and changing your story previously to allow yourself and have that drive to go out and do whatever it is, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Love that. So the next thing I want to have a think about is consistency. And consistency is something that we talk about a lot. We talk about it from a training perspective, from a nutritional perspective. But I guess it's also one of those things that, again, it's starting small. And then just once you have those things in place and those habits, bit by bit, you start to branch out. You add things in, right? How important is consistency for us?
Oh, consistency is everything, right? So firstly, as you say, I think it's something called chunking it down into tiny pieces, okay? So if everybody out there has got a goal, no matter what it is, whether it's health related, whether it's, you know, in their personal life, in their career, everybody out there is working towards some sort of goal. And consistency is key. But I would say the biggest thing with the consistency is, again, finding the best way to continue in the moments where you don't want to, right? Because we all get those days where you go, maybe I won't today, or I'll just miss this, I'll just miss the one day. But also, when the consistency stops, you will see a downward spiral, okay? So it's about, firstly, I would say, finding your key to, in those moments where you don't want to do it, pushing beyond. Because real growth actually comes in those most difficult moments, right, where we don't want to do it. That is when we really grow. And also, the wins that we get out of those moments where we don't want to do it are even bigger, because you think, wow, I pushed myself beyond, go me. And it is just chipping away at a goal, you know? If you imagine, I always use the analogy of a planted seed. You wouldn't plant a seed and have, you know, a mature tree overnight. That it needs nurturing. It needs to grow. It needs you to give time to it. And in the end of the day, I do think that if you're someone that wakes up every day and you keep striving towards that goal, even if it is the tiniest thing in that day, it can be for 5 minutes, less than that, you will achieve it. So it's keeping at it.
And you mentioned again, like having a real deep rooted reason, like a strong why.
Yeah.
And we again had a chat recently, and it was the first time I've actually heard someone say have multiple whys.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought, you know, have that one big why, that one thing that's going to really hold you accountable and tie you in. That's your buy-in. But then when you actually mention about having more than just one and having multiple things there that you can draw upon, because maybe that one day or that week, that one why isn't going to be strong enough. You need something else to draw on, something else where you can go, okay, that one's maybe failing me today, but this is where I'm going to now be. And I think that was huge, because actually what it did when I did it, we recently had a summit thing here and I was talking about this. When I thought about my first why, and then the next one, actually my next one was deeper rooted.
Yeah.
And then when I thought about my third one, it was actually probably meant to be my first one, because it was again the most deep rooted reason.
Yeah.
So it actually became a very powerful tool to have multiple whys.
Exactly. And I always link back to remember why you started. Okay. So again, when it comes to consistency, if you're having those moments of, I'm not sure, or even just you don't know maybe what way to go or what decision to make, remember why you started, come back to the core. And yeah, exactly that, having a whole list of whys, because some days one why might not work for you and you think, no, I don't mind being a little bit heavier today if you're trying to lose weight, you know. But if you look at then the rest of your whys, because it gives you energy, because it makes you feel light, because actually you give more to life and your family, then you're going to proceed, right? So, and what I would say with the whys is have them accessible, right? So have them written down, have them on your phone so that you can easily go back to them, because also writing down is, you know, a super powerful tool. It kind of anchors them a little bit more. So it also brings your awareness to that moment in time where you've written them down. So there's a bigger connection.
And then you mentioned it earlier actually as well about awareness, as you just said there as well, and kind of reflecting.
Yeah.
When you think about consistency, or when I think about it, I also then think where I've failed in the past, or I've heard people fail in the past, is when those barriers come up, life barriers come up.
Yeah.
But actually, if you can think about it beforehand and you go, okay, this is where I am currently, and moving forward, these are the things that, you know, might be in my way. These are the hurdles and the barriers that I may face. If you can then start to sort out solutions for those in advance and kind of have, again, multiple ways around it, solutions, you can kind of overcome those barriers, right? Again, you have a winning formula. You've already planned for potential, I guess, forks in the road, right?
Well, you see, this is where I'd say different, because I'm very much about living in the now. So we don't know what's coming up.
Yep.
We have no idea what roadblocks are ahead. We have no idea what challenges are ahead. And so I think if you have a winning formula for getting through things in the past, then absolutely you can harness those. But I would actually say consistency, it's bringing people back more to the now and dealing with what's going on now. So if you're waking up and having a great day, absolutely making the most of that and going out there and doing whatever it is you need to do, smash it, because that's how you're feeling right now. Yep. In the same way, we don't know how we'll be tomorrow or what challenges could come up. So I would say if you've got tools you can harness and solutions or formulas, absolutely, they're part of your toolbox as such. But you never know what's coming. So I wouldn't say to plan too much, because I would say the majority of the time we plan for things that either don't happen or they actually come out very differently to how we think they may have.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I guess when I think about the planning, I'm thinking if I looked a week ahead at my week and I knew I had a whole day of meetings, it's planning that rather than me trying to squeeze that run in between meetings, it's actually I'm just going to plan to get up earlier. Yeah. And that's going to be my run time. Yeah. Or if I know I have a school drop off or something, I know it needs to be done pre or post, that kind of thing. But it's interesting. So do you find that actually some people deal better with planning? Some people just deal better with, as you say, kind of just going by how they feel day to day?
Absolutely, I would say so. There are, when you actually look at people's brain profiles, you've got L1, L2, which is left side of the brain, and then you've got R1, R2. And for example, L2 is somebody that's very detail orientated, needs to plan things, needs precision. So if you looked at their brain profile, I would then say, yes, I can understand why you need some planning, whereas like an R2 is very creative and, open to just talking with people, seeing what comes in the moment of time. And again, they'd be more laid back with it. I do think, though, that when it comes to achieving a goal, it is beneficial to have an element of planning. But then how you plan that is down to the individual. So, for example, if you were dealing with an L2, you would want to set a time that they are going to go for a run. Whereas if you had an R2, you would say, you're going to go for a 45-minute run at some point in that day. And then actually, they will get more out of that by just having the freedom to fit it in, which is very much how I am.
Interesting. So L2, R2, would they both still have a time frame on a goal? Or would that also be then quite open-ended, if you see what I mean?
Again, I would say L2, it would be very specific. Yeah. It would probably have, honestly, like every single day, certain milestones that need to be hit, and likely that they would get very stressed if they didn't hit those milestones on that day. Whereas an R2 would have milestones. Planning is also important, but again, there'd be more flexibility in it. So if they didn't hit something one day, they'd be cool with the fact that it may run into the next few days.
Interesting. Love that. And we mentioned obviously habits a little bit, and kind of choosing one thing, working with that for a while, and then looking to increase a thing, to add a thing. Yeah. How long should someone wait before they introduce the next thing? Is there a certain time frame, or is it just when they feel they own that thing, and then they're going to bring the next thing?
I mean, difficult to say. It varies. There's a load of books out there that say it takes 30 days to make a habit, It takes 60 days to make a habit. But because there are a lot of deeper things going on there with habits, again, beliefs, people's view of what they're actually doing, it is difficult to say. I would say really the individual will know when that has become a habit. When you start waking up and it's a non-negotiable, and this is a word I love, it becomes part of your day, right? So people often say to me, oh, how do you train so much? I say to them, it's part of my day. It's a habit. It's not a chore. I've done it for so many years. It is integrated into my day. And so I would say when someone feels that's become a non-negotiable, they no longer are actually actively thinking about doing it, they just do, that's when it becomes a habit. And I guess that's based on feeling, right? It's based on instinct. It will vary by individual, and I would say they will know because they know themselves best.
Nice. And then our fifth one actually is failure, right? Talk us through failure.
So failure is a huge one. I would say, for many years, people have viewed failure as a negative. And I don't really like to put positive or negative connotations on concepts or emotions, because I would say everything out there has learnings, right? And we can learn from things. And that's what failure is to me. It's an opportunity for growth. So failure is feedback. And actually, if you look at the word fail, you can view it as first attempt in learning, okay?
Nice.
Which is, again, it depends on your perspective and how you view it. But there's nobody out there that has achieved greatness without failing along the way. And that may be small failures, huge failures, you know. And they are really times that challenge us, but they're also the biggest times of growth. And they throw us in the deep end and allow us to take ourselves to new heights or find different ways of doing things, which is, you know, that's kind of champion stuff there, because many people do view failure as a point to stop. And that's when procrastination sets in, that's when doubts set in, and then they freeze, literally freeze. And I think if more and more people can change the way that failure is, you know, put out in the world, that actually it's a brilliant thing. It enables you to continue your road up the mountain. Then I think, you know, it would change things up for so many people out there.
So if someone does fail at something,
Yeah.
obviously self-reflection is going to be a huge part of that in the learning. What kind of questions could someone start to look into? So they've had a failure, whatever it may be, whether it be training, nutrition, career-wise, they sit down and they start to try and reflect to move past that and learn.
Yeah.
What can they start to ask themselves?
So I usually use a 3-step approach, 3 questions, and almost if you imagine them in a grid. So number 1, what are the learnings? Because it automatically shifts things to the positive, right? So what are the learnings? So you reflect on the things that you've learned there. Then, is there anything that next time I would do different? Note that down. And then action points. And the action points are basically then how to proceed, how to move, continue on your journey, or the things that you now need to do. So it shifts the whole thing in to the positive, but allows you to reflect and then to make action points. So basically allows you to then go off and do your thing.
And in your experience,
Yeah.
when an R1 versus an L1 reflects on that, do they look different? Do they, like the things they come back to, that the things that maybe were their failures or the things where they got stuck, do they look different?
They would, 100%, because their belief systems are so different. So say you had a L2 that's very precision based, you know, loves information, would be writing reports, for example. If they failed, they would look at, for example, all the detail orientated things that they could have potentially changed or done different and need to do different next time. Whereas say you've got an R2, they may look at it very much like, if only I had that conversation with that person, or if only maybe I, you know, slotted this into my day a little bit better, it would be so relaxed. So again, it falls back on their belief systems and then how they're wired in their minds, but it would look a whole different. Yeah.
Love that. And then we're just going to finish off on, I'm going to ask you, if someone is sitting there now listening to this or watching this, and they want to kind of think about being unstoppable, they want to try and make some changes today, what would be the top 3 things that you would go, have a look at this for me, or do this? What would be the real main takeaway points that someone could start to action as soon as possible is going to help them on that journey to being unstoppable?
So number 1, I would say clarity. Get clear on what it is you want. Without clarity, it's not going to happen. So get really clear. And I would recommend writing this down. What is it I want? The core of everything is what you want, and that's what you want to achieve, your goals, whatever it may be. So clarity, get clear. Because once you've got clarity, you know what you're striving for, okay? Then I would say, start to have a look at your belief system, start becoming aware and have conversations with yourself. You know, actually all day, all we're doing in our mind is asking questions and answering them. It goes back and forth. But start to have a different conversation with yourself. Ask yourself, what is it that is actually stopping me doing these things? You know, get honest, because a lot of people have never actually looked at their limiting beliefs. So look what's holding you back, and then have a look at how you can change them to empowering ones, because every limiting belief can be reworded to be empowering. So for example, I can't lose weight, I've never been able to do it, can change to an empowering one. I can lose this weight and I am going to feel as healthy as I want to feel, or I can feel as healthy as I want to feel. So every negative, if you like, even though I don't like that word, can be shifted to something empowering, which is amazing in itself. And then thirdly, I would actually say to start, it comes back to being your authentic self. I truly believe there's one of each of us out here. That is our unique selling point. And we live in a world where so many people are trying to be somebody else. They're trying to look like somebody else, dress like somebody else. And most people are doing it because they think that will make them happy. But actually, it's becoming comfortable with your true you, because the more that you harness your being and start to move away from what people will think of you and just being cool with who you are, no matter who you are, you will feel this freedom and this power to just go out there and do whatever you like, because you feel that you're you. And there's nothing more empowering than actually being out there in a world of people trying to be somebody else, and you're just there being you and cool being you.
Amazing. I love that. Tisk, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I've
Awesome.
loved it. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gents, there you have it. Episode 8 is in the books. Episode 9, of course, is just around the corner. Like, subscribe, share it, do your thing, and we'll see you very, very soon.